morning, we're going to be talking about single-family rentals, and you may be saying to yourself, single-family rentals, we're builders. Why are we talking about single-family rentals? Well, by the end of the session, I'm hoping that each of you know why we're talking about single-family rentals. And so I'm going to take the opportunity. We did not have a sponsor for today's session, and so I'm going to take a little bit of an opportunity to tell you why I'm the one that they asked to do this, because first of all, this is a completely volunteer position. I don't want any of you to think that I'm lining my pockets by standing up here and pontificating to all of you for these few days. I'm just as much a guest here as you are, but the reason why they asked me to do this is I'm part of a group called Blue Sav Partners. And what Blue Sav Partners does is we help builders understand technology, understand options and standards, and understand where grants come from, understand how to get the federal government and your local municipalities to help fund the options and standards that you put in your home, everything from solar to battery backup to home technology to networking and all the things that are important to your home buyers that we've been talking about for the last few days. So what we do is we take a look at your plans, we take a look at your demographics, we take a look at who your potential buyers are, and then we have a conversation with you about what the appropriate technology installs would be for those buyers. And then we look at opportunities for you not only to put in standards and turn that from a cost center into a profit center through the use of grants and other methodologies, but then we look at the options that you're going to sell and make sure that you partner with the right folks and that you're going to streamline your construction processes and be as efficient as possible. Make sure you keep your homes on time and passing all of your zoning regulations, and turn option selling into a profit center for you. So if you have any questions about that when we are done, please feel free to ask me anything you want. I am one of those quote-unquote experts that they asked to be here for these 3 days to help you navigate the world of technology and options and standard selling. And so that's my little 5-minute commercial? Yeah, I'll call it a commercial, absolutely. So with that, I'm going to invite my panel up. We have a very auspicious panel with us this morning. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you're with us this morning. Kelly?
My name is Kelly Cox. I am the National Strategic Partnership Manager for ADT. Most of you are familiar with the ADT brand. And my focus is primarily with builders, build-to-rent, and single-family rental.
Wonderful.
My name is Diane Deco. I'm the Director of Strategy and Operations for Progress Residential, which is a single-family rental company. My focus is in the security vertical and keeping vacant homes vacant, which is becoming more of an issue. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Hey guys, I'm Barrett Davis. I'm the co-founder and CEO of EnterNow. We were solely focused on providing self-guided tours for home builders, and then as many of our home builders are now doing single-family rentals, we now have a single-family rental solution as well. That's it for me.
Oh, you were quick. So yeah, I was taking a drink. It is so incredibly dry here. I don't know how people live here. I feel like a raisin. So the first thing we're going to start with are some statistics. And this is the interactive portion of our morning. So hopefully you've had your cup of coffee and the juices are flowing and you're feeling more comfortable now. So can anybody take a wild stab? And Diane, you're not allowed to answer because I know you're going to know the answer to this question. How many single-family rental units there are in the United States according to the Census Bureau? Throw out a number. What do you think? 100,000. You are so way off, it's not even funny how way off you are. I was shocked at this number. So 100,000 is our first bid. And we're going to play the Price is Right. Who's going to keep going until we go over? 9 million. 9 million. You're getting closer. Anybody else? 30 million. You have gone over, sir. You lose our game. So there are, in fact, 23 million single-family rental properties in the United States alone. I was astounded by that number. It's almost a third of what you would consider to be the single-family home market size within America. It's an astounding number of properties. Here's another one for you. How many new single-family rental homes were started in 2022 alone? It's 100,000. So you've gone over, believe it or not, but not by much. 81,000 new single-family rental homes were started just in 2022. Now, that was a record, honestly. 2021 had set the previous record, of 60,000 homes. That's a huge increase if you think about it. You go from 60,000 to 81,000. Oh, excuse me. And that trend is actually only growing. Companies like Diane's, who are what they consider to be institutional owners, companies that own more than a couple, and when I say a couple, I mean like a couple thousand, single-family rentals. There are 3 major companies, not including Diane's, Tricon, American Homes for Rent, and Invitation. They each own in the tens of thousands of single-family rental homes. So what's happening now in the single-family builder market is these are becoming customers of yours. These are potential customers. According to the National Association of Realtors, almost 13% of the homes sold are sold specifically for single-family rental. It's more than 1 in 10. So as the people come through your design centers, as the people come through your model home traps, as the people log onto your websites looking for homes, you have to now start to consider the fact that more than 10% of those people are people looking to purchase your homes as single-family rentals. So this is the reason why we're having this conversation this morning. I was astounded at the numbers out there. Now, full disclosure, I happen to be an owner of a rental property. It's not a single-family home, it's a condo, but it turns out that the numbers that I just quoted you don't include the multifamily sector. Remember, we are the high volume track here, right? So we're not talking about those MDU folks, they're across the hall. So that's a whole other number of rentals, communities, condos, apartments, things like that are on the market. The numbers that I'm quoting you are literally just single-family homes. It's absolutely astounding. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about what kinds of packages and what kinds of technology these people are looking for. And Diane, I'm going to start with you. You are responsible for this vertical for as they called it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they called it online an institutional owner. It sounds more like a prison guy. I wasn't comfortable with that, but that's what they called it. What kinds of things are important to you when you're looking for a potential rental property?
It's a good question. So my company owns roughly 100,000 single-family homes across the United States. And we will acquire about 4,000 newly built homes this year. So we are looking in that build-to-rent model quite a bit. Things that become important when you have this many assets and property management becomes that type of beast is how do we start to get in front of predictive maintenance? How do our appliance packages, are they connected to the internet? Can we look at ways that we can gauge energy consumption, water consumption? Can we get in front of repairs before they become a larger problem? So anything like that that helps us, whether it's cloud management, performance, or the ability to connect to the cloud so that we can get alerts, understand when things are happening, is a huge win for us. At the same time, keeping vacant homes vacant, even while they're in the construction phase, is one of our #1 priorities this year as squatters and trespassers become an emerging problem that's costing us millions of dollars a year. So anything that helps us with smart locks, we've got ADT systems in our homes now too, so we know when people are entering, who's entering, how long were they there. All of that becomes very important.
So that's very interesting. So tell us a little bit about the type of product that you buy. You're going to buy 4,000 new homes this year, newly built homes. Obviously, taking geography out of the equation, right? Because obviously you're going to buy them in some geographic location that's important to you. But what kinds of fit and finish are you looking at? A specific price point or a model type? Are you looking at a specific number of bedrooms? Give us a sort of a broad stroke view, if you will, of the types of homes.
Like a sweet spot for us is your 3.2, 1,500. That's kind of our bread and butter. Is we live in that realm. Fit and finish becomes, white cabinets, granite countertops, things like that that have mass appeal, that are durable, that'll stand the test of time. Those are the type of things.
Mm-hmm. And so in a 3.2, do you care about things like pools or amenities or any other community-wide things that you look for? Or
a lot of the communities that we're acquiring now are full communities, so then we benefit from those type of things.
Yeah.
As an owner of so many assets, we become risk adverse. So like a pool in the backyard, maybe not something we want to have, but a community pool is gated. It's got some built-in protections around child safety. That becomes very intriguing.
That's interesting. So you mentioned smart appliances. Smart appliances tend to be the more expensive appliances and the appliances that builders probably don't put in necessarily as a standard. So can you help us understand, when you look at option selections for these kinds of homes, what kinds of options or things that you're hoping for? You do obviously connected appliances, but so you're upgrading kitchens, because I would imagine upgraded appliances, but
It's nice because typically for connected appliances, you were forced into a higher echelon of appliance. Now we're seeing the appliance manufacturers understand the importance of connected appliances. You can start to find it in more contract and builder grade appliances now. Those type of things.
those type of things. So Kelly, as you partner with Diane on some of these installations and you look at things, I would imagine, like smart locks and alarm systems, do you then offer extended services to the renters, or what kind of packages and what kinds of systems do you design? I know that as a former integrator myself, we would go in with sort of a basic, 311 security system, right? A couple of doors, maybe a window, a PIR, and then we would offer more services to those new home buyers, whether it be automation or connected devices, remote access, things like that. How does ADT sort of tackle the problem of people coming and going from these homes and not necessarily owning them?
That's a great question. So it's a multi-phased approach. So when the home is under construction, the owner wants the ability to control who's entering, when they're entering, and what actions they're able to do. So if you have trades going in, we can help set up with the technology with smart locks, thermostats, security systems, leak detection, the ability of what the trade can do. So if you have a painter going in, you can have their access only work from a certain period of time, and either blocked out after hours or certain alerts if they're using their code after hours. If the trade is going in and they're cranking the AC up and painting and then leaving it like that, and leaving the doors unlocked and such, we can help set up scenes so where when the painter enters the code into the lock, it unlocks the door, disarms the security system, and either locks the thermostat or gives them only a 5 to 10 degree,
Right.
probably a 5-degree range that they can adjust it. And at a certain time, at like 8 o'clock at night, that thermostat's gonna adjust to nighttime levels, the door's gonna auto lock, and the system's gonna arm. So it's not only about the control of who's entering that asset, to protect your asset, who's entering that home, but also energy control, because you're the ones absorbing that cost.
So you talked about access control. I would imagine that before the sale or before the rental, I have to shift my gears, because all we've been talking about are buyers, and so we're going to assume that you've bought it, so now you have to find somebody to live in it, right? So this is where Barrett comes into play, because obviously what Enter Now does is allow for people to enter the home, tour it, keep track of them, and then leave. So Barrett, give us a little bit of an idea of what that process is like and how self-touring has sort of entered into this market as well.
Yeah, I think paired with ADT or for large operators, it helps slim down their leasing staff to allow people to tour on demand or schedule so they can either tour a for sale home or for rent. Definitely with sales slowing down in the home building world, a lot of my small and medium-sized builders are in here. They're starting to take some of their portfolio and do rentals themselves. They might allocate some of their future communities to be completely built to rent. I think more small builders that I talked to this week actually had plans in 2024 for some of their new communities to have a liquidity event to sell to an operator or something like that. So from a technology standpoint, you're just building for sale. It's definitely super smart. We just talked about smart locks and turnkey technology like ADT, having that for sale. You're building your new community. You might have a business plan for 2024 where you plan on selling a part of that to a rental operator. There's a huge net benefit of having all of that streamlined for sale, whether you sell the home or for a potential large operator. And so you have all of that sort of built in to keep that connective piece even through different types of events, whether it's that community structured for sale or for rent in the future. So it's definitely what I'm starting to see more and more, is just builders starting to either create some of their own property management group or start to change how they're doing their business.
So Diane, once somebody decides they would like to live in one of your homes, can you give us some statistics? what's the average length of a rental, for instance? Is it something longer term, or are you really looking at shorter term opportunities?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I would imagine all of the amenities that somebody has within the home, things like solar panels and other things that are required. What's the educational process? So I move into a home. You know, if I'm going to live there long term, there may be some things that I'm going to manage within the home and understand how they work, right? Solar panels or transfer switches or things like that. What process can you use in order to help the new renter, not home buyer, understand those systems? You know, with the newer homes, there's more sophistication out there. What kind of assistance can the builder and or integrator provide to you to help that transition?
Oh, that's a very good question. I know for us, one of the things that we're looking at is in our roadmap for the next 2 years is app-driven education, right? If you look at the brands that folks are most loyal to, whether it's Amazon or Uber or whatnot, it's a contactless, touchless, appless experience. It's pretty consistent. So packing in training videos or how-tos or whatnot into an app, ADT does a great job of providing training videos. So if there's any nuances specific to a build that we can use, you know, with our learning and design team, package little videos and put it into that. So it's DIY at the touch of their thumbs. Like they could access it at any time instead of having to call customer care at all hours of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would imagine you've got a fairly extensive, the classic 1-800 number.
For sure.
For folks. It's like, I moved in, I don't know how to open the door, that kind of thing.
Well, and education is also key not only for the resident, for the renter, but also for the staff. So having access, using that technology, utilizing the technology that's in the home, those training videos being on the hub that's in the home, being on the platform, living within the institutional operators' environment. So if they're used to going to their rental company's app or website to reserve time at the clubhouse, that having that training opportunity there, but also a simple, easy resource for staff because their job is not to teach technology. Their job is the millions of other things they're doing. So making sure that the staff has just enough information to be dangerous and point the resident in the right direction.
Right direction. No, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the one of the things that is becoming very apparent to a lot of builders out there these days is this post-close opportunity. And we work with a number of builders now that, you know, it used to be you handed over the keys and you were all out. Now it's about sort of more of a lifetime relationship because at some point either a member of their family or somebody else is either going to rent within that community or buy something that the builder has built and move on. So it's very interesting how sort of the trends are changing now into this sort of post-close era. And this longer term relationship. And that's why I was so intrigued by the single family rental because you have that relationship all along. I would imagine that folks, even once they leave you after 2 years, there's a certain percentage of them that move to a different one of your neighborhoods, whether it's a job move or a life change. Tim Costello the other day was talking about the fact that, you know, all of our lives are changing regardless of whether or not the market is allowing us to buy homes. And so, you know, there's always the babies being born and the divorces going on and the marriages happening and all the other things. And so people need to change their locations. So I would imagine there's some consistency. If I've been good in paying my rent in one of your properties, I'm hopefully going to be good in paying my rent in one of your others. So, but there's now the dark side, right? So we've discussed the happy side of rentals, and it gives people an opportunity to move out of the urban environments, maybe move into a single family home and have more space in a backyard. And we now know that dog owners love to leave their apartments and get their houses so their dogs can run around. But then we have the other side, which is, okay, the painter was painting, but I moved in while the painter was painting and now I'm here. Ha ha, go get rid of me. So what kinds of things can both the builder and the integrator do to sort of mitigate some of that issue?
Anything that we can do from an access control standpoint. Even Kelly's got some great stories of builders this has happened to as well. Something that's happened to all the single family residential institutional buyers. We've all talked, it's happening to all of us, is squatters. So while the home is vacant, either it's going through turns or renovations or we've acquired it, we're putting some final touches on, or it's just in between folks. folks will just make the house theirs. They can enter either through self-guided tour technology, or somebody leaves a back door open, things like that, and they just move in. And now with squatter laws being antiquated, it's not really written for an illegal trespasser. And after COVID and the rental moratorium and eviction court backups, it can take 12 to 24 months to get an illegal trespasser out of your house. And that's going to cost you millions of dollars. So anything we can do, from access control, knowing who's in our house, when the lock was opened, any type of audible alarm, anything that can make the situation uncomfortable, to help them find their way out the door, meaning we set the temperatures higher or lower. So ADT's been a great partner in that. But it's definitely a problem that I don't think is going away. It's only going to be trending higher and higher, especially as it moves from East Coast to West Coast.
So it's interesting. So maybe you could give us, Kelly, give us a juicy squatter story, right? Do you have and the reason why I bring this up is because it's important that you understand as a home builder that while you're targeting a market that is available to you now, right? There's a good 10%, as we talked about, 10 to 13% of your buyers that are gonna be single family renter buyers. There's also the downside, and you have to be aware of it to make sure that you can mitigate any risk or liability that you may have during this process. So it may sound, we always like to talk about the happiness and light up here, but at the same time, there are some real business situations that we have to deal with. So can you give us one?
Absolutely.
Talk about one? There you go.
They're always painful for me to hear these. We have a builder partner who, first, squatters' rights are different all over the country.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with what those laws are in your markets, go ahead and reach out to us. We're very well versed in these. Unfortunately, we hear a lot of horror stories. So we had a builder partner who had a home under construction, and one of the first homes in the community, part of the community was going to be for rent, part of it was going to be for sale. And the construction team left on a Friday afternoon, came back on Monday morning, and there was a squatter there. Called the police were dispatched, and the squatter said, well, I've been here more than 24 hours. The police said it's a civil matter now. Now you have to evict. And in this particular market, the average time to evict was 18 months. So the police left. The builders are like, well, what are we going to do now? We have to figure this out. An hour later, that squatter had called the police. Same police officer came out, and the squatter said, this house is unhabitable. Like, what are you going to do about it? And so the builder then had to pull resources from other projects to come make this house habitable for the squatter while they're building the community around them. So they weren't fined. So it was a mess. And at that point, police are involved. There's limitations of what they can do. And it was a really uncomfortable situation for them.
Clearly this person knew the laws and knew how to make them work to their advantage.
Absolutely. And what we see is sometimes there's rental fraud, where oftentimes those people are victims, where they thought they were dealing with Progress or with another company, and there's a fake lease, and they say, hey, this house normally rents for $1,900 a month for this 2-bedroom. I'm doing it for $1,500, but I have 5 more people coming to look. So if you want this, you need to wire me first month, last month, deposit right now. And these people are falling for it. So those people really are victims. And partners like Progress are doing what they can to work with them. And then there's squatters that purposely know what they're doing. Sometimes those are related to crime rings, which Diane can speak to. But the trick is to make sure that when they're entering, even when the system is disarmed, there is technology to alert you if something's happening. Right. And like Diane said, to make it uncomfortable. But to make sure that when the home is under construction, there's a certain level of protection there for energy efficiency and safety. When the home is vacant, before a renter moves in or before you pass that property off to being sold, that there's another level of protection. And then self-guided tour. So all of that ties together. It's the same technology, it's just the way that you use it and that it's programmed to make sure it's working to your benefit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can add a little tip here.
Please.
From an enter now standpoint, we've been brought into some of the large single-family rental operators. So I have an engineering background, so I just want to say there's a lot of vendors out there trying to solve the squatting problem. It is the highest temperature problem to solve. So it's a 3-part problem. It's technology, process, and legality. So from an engineering background, I love to solve technology problems. It's a mix of both. It's legal and process as well. So what if you turn off a light and there's a disclaimer that you waive your squatting rights? You know, I'm not saying that's like real, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of like different R&D experiments that a lot of people are running that are like trying to give up your squatting rights if you do X, Y, Z. There's, you know, all sorts of different technologies being implemented. From a self-guided tour front, there are fraud rings specifically targeting key boxes, key technology. One large single-family rental institution that we recently learned, just digging through analytics and focused on this problem, was that these people actually copy their construction keys. So their construction and trade teams are all using the same keys in their key boxes. So they've started to move to different key box solutions that have offline access codes or unique access codes. So there are no static codes even on their key boxes to that point. So they found out that a little bit of an inside job, you know, it was a keyed problem. So self-guided tours being primarily keyless, that's what we do at Enter Now. I think you'll see more and more all of the self-guided tour vendors move to extremely sort of keyed solutions any way they can, just to prevent, you know, those sort of like small keys getting copied and things like that.
So not to make this all doom and gloom, and I did not want to do that, but it is important that you all recognize the situation and what's going on in the single-family rental places. If we can swing back a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about technology. So we've mentioned a bunch of things. So we've talked about things like smart locks and thermostats. We've talked about energy efficiency and energy management. Some of those things you may be putting in as a standard within your homes. So Diane, is there ever a time when you find that the standard that's being put in is not that it doesn't meet your needs, but is counterintuitive to what you want within a rental market? Are there ever times that you meet with builders and you say, yeah, it's really nice that you're putting in that really fancy sliding glass door, but that is going to be a nightmare for me because of X, Y, Z. Can you do something different? What kinds of gaps are there or opportunities are there for the builders to say, all right, I'm going to design this particular home or this particular community and limit those kinds of things so that when Progressive comes in, you know, they're happy. They're going to, you know, take these homes.
In the point of this conference, I think most of it is technology related. A lot of the renters that we're seeing now are of two generations, right? The Generation Z, the younger kids just entering the market, and then baby boomers. So the silver tsunami is happening, and they're starting they don't want the house maintenance anymore. They want the freedom and the flexibility.
Right.
But with that, there's a desire for certain types of technology, whether it's a connected thermostat. So please make sure the thermostats aren't dumb, like, you know, smart thermostats, things like that. But it's the ability to have smart lighting and smart shades, smart everything is what we're starting to see more and more, even from the baby boomer generation, who you might think is technology adverse. They're actually not. They like the ability to tell Alexa, turn off my lights, you know, those type of things.
So with all of that smart technology, obviously the concept of data collection and privacy comes into play a little bit, right? So it's all well and good that we can monitor what's going on and we know who's coming and going. And before they're living there, certainly, you know, it's an open playing field and everybody, you know, knows, well, you know, you went to the house. Well, how do you know that? Well, you signed up on the app and the app lets you in. But once they're in the house, now there's sort of a fine line between, I know what you're doing, and you're still preserving your privacy. So how do you sort of navigate that line a little bit to say, all right, the painter was there, and I know the painter was there, and he was there for X number of hours, and he came and he went, and we shut down the system, and we're all good to go. But now there's somebody living there, and I no longer, you know, not need to know, I no longer am sort of allowed to know, right, what they're doing with the home within limits, because obviously you can put it in the lease, hey, we're gonna know certain things that you're using, you know, $1,000 a month of electricity when you should only be using $500 worth of electricity. But are there any pitfalls for the builders in understanding sort of the privacy issues that come about in the single family rental business, whether they're renting them themselves or they're selling them to somebody who's renting them? Cameras in communities, for instance, right? Are there any like red flags that you guys look at and say, ugh, I'm going to hear from attorneys on that one. Can we not do that?
I think for me, the only thing that we're concerned about is leaving a camera inside when it becomes occupied. So that's something we spend a lot of time solving for, making sure that it doesn't happen, having systems and processes. So we remove any internal cameras. External cameras, you may have the occasional tenant who's a little bit of a big brother person who may not be a fan of it. But overwhelmingly, the sentiment we're hearing from folks is that it's there. It helps them feel more protected. They know that there are eyes on the neighborhood. And I know a lot of the data partners or tech vendors we partner with have a lot of built-in things where a lot of what happens in a house goes dark to us.
Okay.
So once something moves to the occupied section of ADT, we lose access to everything.
Okay, so it's very interesting because obviously it's a concern. Look, even with people who own homes, right?
Yeah.
It's a concern, and the data privacy issues and things that are coming about are becoming a fever pitch, right? The more that we have these talking boxes and smart technology and things, I meet people all the time who say to me, "Well, I'll never have an Alexa in my home." Why? Because it listens to every word I say, and then I pick up my cell phone and I say, "You carry one of these all day, right?" But all of that being said, so that's very interesting. So we covered privacy and we covered some of the packages. So obviously, all of the traditional things I would imagine, the doorbell cameras and the smart thermostats and the shading and the drapes and things like that. And the interesting one for me is obviously smart appliances, right? I hadn't considered the fact that smart appliances would be something that a single family rentor would want, not renter, rentee, would want. But that's an interesting one for me as well. Are there any other technologies, are there any other features that you look for in single family rentals that maybe the builders would differentiate for? For instance, we had a long conversation yesterday about work from home. And we talked about the design elements of home offices and workspaces and things. Those tended to be, at least when we polled our audience, most of the folks here had those as an option, not necessarily as a standard. Is that an option that you're looking for, sort of this convertible bedroom work from home situation, as more of us are moving outside of cities and maybe renting homes? Or is it still, nope, you're gonna get your, I think you said 3-2, your bedroom, you're gonna do your thing. You wanna convert one of them, that's on you.
Yeah, right now, it's that one.
Okay.
It's the ability to have a bedroom with a closet that functions, so if children or whatnot, if they need the sleeping space, and to your point, it's much easier to convert a bedroom to somewhere for work from home, school for home, any of the trends that we're starting to see that are emerging. So it's still just the bedroom count for us at this point.
It is.
Yep.
It is. And then when you're doing the wiring and the installation in these homes, I would assume, knowing your product really well, because I've been an integrator a very long time, that you're doing, wireless, you're doing pulse, you're doing your traditional ADT installs.
Well, partially, yes.
Okay.
Wireless is where the market has moved to.
Yeah.
And home technology is actually leading the front. Security is, at this point, an add-on.
Okay.
For most people are looking for the smart home side of it. And as a builder, putting technology in the homes, my recommendation would be to look for two things. First is agnostic equipment. If you're installing proprietary equipment that doesn't integrate with anyone, with only, there's a very popular video doorbell on the market that no one integrates with it, because it is the resident, the buyer, the renter can only utilize that app. And if they want to do something else, if they want to, they're limited, right?
Yes.
So as you're putting technology into these homes, if you either hold them or sell them, is agnostic equipment. And also the product that you're putting in, find out the minutia of it. And if you don't want to put in that work, reach out to one of the integrators. There are products that are easier to hack, that the safety protocols aren't necessarily in place. And we can see, a lot of us have been in this industry a long time. We've seen startups come and this is like a great product and it's going to change the wave. And we have multiple lock manufacturers and lights and thermostats and cameras.
Yes.
And how many of them are no longer around? So the safety protocol of making sure that the products you're putting in your house are safe for your future buyers and your residents.
Wonderful. That's all good advice. Thank you. That absolutely is. So I thank you very much for your attention this morning. If we can give our panel a round of applause. Thank you very much for their participation and their expert views. I appreciate you all. If there's any other questions, please see us afterwards. But enjoy your boardrooms.